In our second week of the Old World Culture class, we'll be looking at Ferrero chapter 1, which is entitled Mesopotamia, Gods, Rulers and the Social Order. And in my textbook, which is a little bit older, but that's the textbook of Ferrero, that's on page 11, it talks about the early forms of writing, such as a cuneiform. So this is Dr. Lee, and in this lecture, in this video, I want to look at some of the early forms of communication that was used typically in the sort of Mesopotamian Assyrian period, but also looking at Egypt and going through into the Indus Valley civilization and other artifacts that I have. And so this is a video to show you some of the early forms of writing, particularly the cuneiform. So let me start by saying that these are not originals. If they were original artifacts, then perhaps I might not be teaching at Columbia College. I might be on the Costa del Sol or doing other things. And but these are what solid stone tablets, quartzite limestone composites, and they're entitled the Cuneiform Rosetta Stone Set. And they're a unique blend or set of handmade tablets produced by Italian cuneiform scholars in the 1950s as a study tool for identifying the different types of cuneiform. The recording excerpts from the famous King Darius monument at Behistun, the tablets demonstrate the evolution of cuneiform and present perfect examples of the three main types of cuneiform script in the ancient world. Darius left behind a remarkable trilingual carving high on Mount Behistun in western Iran, where the ancient road connected Babylonia and Media. The inscriptions include three versions of the same text, and these are written in three different scripts and language, which are Old Persian, Elamite and Babylonian. This monumental carving became the Rosetta Stone of cuneiform. In 1835, a British Army officer, Sir Henry Rawlinson, risked his life to scale the vertical cliff face and transcribe the text. By 1843, Rawlinson and other scholars finally deciphered the previous lost ancient script. Now, in England, we have a very famous light bulb piece, which is called a Mazda light bulb. Now, you don't have that in America, but we certainly have light bulbs by Mazda in England. And of course, that goes back to Zoroastrianism, when we have Ahura Mazda. Mazda is light, and this sort of duality between light and darkness. And you'll see Ahura Mazda in this first piece, that sort of indentation towards the bottom is Ahura Mazda. So this first tablet demonstrates the Persian neo-cuneiform invented by King Darius circa about 500 BCE. It's a simplified cuneiform script tailored specifically to the Old Persian language. The tablet is sealed with the image of the Persian flying god Ahura Mazda. Now that's the one I mentioned, and that's towards the bottom. You can't see it too easily, but there is Ahura Mazda, and he's carrying the following inscription. So this tablet, the inscription or the translation of this tablet is Xerxes, the great king, king of kings, son of Darius, the king, the Achaemenian. And of course, when we look at Xerxes, then of course we are reminded of the Battle of Salamis, an important battle between the Persians and the Greeks. Ahura Mazda, of course, is missing on this second tablet, and but the second tablet demonstrates the Babylonian cuneiform as developed by the Assyrians several hundred years earlier. The Semitic Akkadians adapted the original cuneiform to their language after their invasion of Sumeria. The tablet carries the following inscription: King Xerxes, the king of kings, the son of King Darius, the Achaemenian. In this third tablet, Ahura Mazda returns, and this tablet demonstrates the Elamite cuneiform. Previously using an indecipherable pictographic script, the Elamites abbreviated cuneiform from several hundred to only 135 characters, and these were designed specifically for their language. The tablet is sealed with the image of the Persian god Ahura Mazda rising between two worshippers and carries the following inscription: "The commander Gautama, the Magnus, lies, spoke he, I am Batira, Smerdis, son of Curus, King Cyrus, the kingdom administrate." So these are the 3 tablets of the cuneiform Rosetta Stone set. Let me see if I can zoom in a little bit to show you the Ahura Mazda who rises between the 2 worshippers. So let's see if we can go in a little bit and look more of Ahura Mazda. There we go. So we're coming in, and you can see the Ahura Mazda with his arms out, and of course he's in the sky, he's rising, and on the left and the right are the 2 worshippers, Ahura Mazda rising between the 2 worshippers. I think going a little bit tighter. There we go. So that's the 3rd tablet. Now if you thought that cannabis was a fairly recent drug, think again, because here's an Assyrian cannabis recipe, or remedy should I say, 700 BCE, and it's for banishing the ghost of childbirth. So let me see if I can get in a little bit tighter on this one, and then you'll be able to see the script. Just a little bit of adjustment and just coming to the script itself. That should make a little bit of difference, and then I'll give you the interpretation of this so that you can have some idea of how they used cannabis. So this is a cuneiform cannabis remedy, and it's dated to 700 BCE. It's a brown ochre stone tablet, quartzite limestone composite. It's a reproduction, it's not the real thing. It's a reproduction of cuneiform tablet fragment recording an ancient Assyrian herbal remedy which uses cannabis for banishing the ghosts of childbirth. It is one of a number of cuneiform medical texts recovered from King Ashurbanipal's library, as stated 700 BCE, the library in Nineveh during the late 19th century. So this is a partial translation. 6 times thou shalt plait or twist the plants of garlic, calendula, cannabis, and 7 herbs for plating. 10 herbs in all, bandaged against the hands of a ghost, a seal of Baltystone not inscribed will remove. Of course, the question is, if you're going to bandage this against the hand of a ghost, how do you find your ghost in the first place? I will leave that up to you students to try to figure that one out. The historical background is that during the 7th century BCE, the famous king, Assyrian king, Ashurbanipal, sent emissaries far afield in search of ancient texts and recovered many invaluable records, including the oldest story of Adam and Eve and the flood. He copied many from cuneiform originals thousands of years older and sealed them within a vast underground library. He specifically constructed this for the purpose, and in the late 19th century archaeologists, including Sir Henry Layard and Hormuz Rasham, found this unique time capsule intact and recovered a huge cache of no less than 50,000 tablets. So here we are. This is a cuneiform cannabis recipe, or cuneiform cannabis remedy, 700 BCE, and very, very useful if you want to banish the ghosts of childbirth. It just takes a few items or herbs, and also a good ghost, preferably with a hand, because you have to bandage all these herbs against the hand of a ghost. Now this artifact is really, really old. So let me just bring it in a little bit tighter and you'll be able to see it. It's going to be a little bit hard to translate, but you'll get a better picture by bringing it in tighter. There we go. Well, this is a Sumerian medical tablet. Its date, now just listen for this one, its date is 2100 BCE. That's 2100 before the Common Era, and it's a historical replica and one of the earliest historical replicas for a medical tablet. So it's a really fascinating piece of artifact that we have here. It was buried 4,000 years in the ruins of Nippur on the plains of Iraq. This 2100 BCE tablet is the oldest medical text known. Towards the end of the 3rd millennium BCE, an anonymous Sumerian healer recorded his remedies for posterity, inscribing 15 detailed prescriptions in the archaic cuneiform. In 2005, University of Pennsylvania scholars succeeded in translating the greater part of this pharmacopoeia. They identified substances as varied as turtle shell, willow bark, cannabis, most of which were ground into wine or beer as the dissolving agent. It is also believed to be the first known documentation of aspirin, aloe vera, opium, and demonstrates a sophistication and level of knowledge equivalent to 17th century England. So let's look at the translation excerpts. Grind to a powder pear tree bark, moon plant, and then pour kashuma wine over it, and let plain oil and hot cedar oil be spread over it. Grind to a powder the seed of the carpenter plant, the gum resin of the makazi plant, and thyme. Dissolve in beer and let a man drink. Pour heated water over dried and powdered water snake, the this is a difficult one, shumkaspal plant, root of the thorn plant, powdered naga, which is an alkali yielding plant, powdered turpentine, and the feces of a bat. After having the affected area bathed, in other words, you bathe the affected area, rub with the oil and cover with sharky, whatever sharky is. So there we are, one of the oldest medical tablets known to man, 2100 BCE, a Sumerian medical tablet. And now we're going to look at some cylinder seals and tablets, and the first one I want to draw your attention to is the one in the very center, the oblong one, and the black seal to the right of it. So there we are, the one to the right just there, and the tablet in the center. The tablet is made by some sort of mud material, and then the seal, the cylinder seal, then is rolled across that, and it forms the image on the tablet. So this one is the Indus Valley cylinder seal and tablet, and it's 1700 BCE, 1700 BCE. Again, it's a replica, and it's entitled The Sun God Battles Monster. Stone-cast replicas of engraved stone cylinder seals from the ruins of Pakistan's ancient Indus Valley civilization are dated to 1700 BCE. During the second half of the 3rd millennium BCE, Sumerian tablets frequently refer to regular trade with Melhula, the flourishing ancient cities Mohenjo-Daro and Harappa. The square stamped seals were commonly used in the Indus Valley, but under the impetus of the northern trade, the Melhulan boat traders began to copy Akkadian-style cylinder seals. Familiar to students of Mesopotamian myth, the seal depicts the stark image of a bearded sun god with raised weapon attacking a fierce horned beast. Although dependent on Akkadian glyptic design, the dueling figures do not adopt a Mesopotamian posture and have their own distinct Indus Valley civilization, Indus Valley style. The ancient civilizations of Mohenjo-daro and Harappa arose in western India, contemporary with Sumeria around 3000 BCE, and flourished under tectonic changes caused the great river to change direction circa 1500 BCE. So those are the cylinder seals from the Indus Valley civilization. If I come out a little bit and look at the seal on the left of the tablet, the grey one, this is actually an ancient Greek cylinder seal. It's dated to be circa 300 BCE. It's an unusual example of 300 BCE engraved trade seal. This is inscribed with the initials of its owner and thought to have been fashioned around the time of Alexander and the dramatic Greek expansion across Mesopotamia. The seal is a departure from the usual stamp seal of the day, represents a Greek trader's adaptation to the culture of the Middle East, where cylinder seals were needed as signature and confirmation of receipt and could be permanently worn around the neck. The word Mesopotamia is itself Greek in origin, from Mesos, which is middle, and Potamus, river, meaning land between the river. And if you can think of an animal that has the Potamus in it, that's right, it's the river horse, the hippopotamus. The hippo, the horse, in the potamus, in the river, the hippopotamus. Now if you look to the left of that grey seal, on the far left, you'll see that that particular seal has got a hole right through the seal, and that enabled a person to wear the seal around their neck. But imagine this sort of period. How does one drill holes in hard stone material like that cylinder seal? Good question. They had a technology that we are not really aware of. We now leave Indus Valley, well, the Indus Valley civilization, and we leave, of course, Mesopotamia. We now travel to Egypt. And this particular replica is the anointing of the pharaoh. It's a replica of an archaic tomb relief of pre-dynastic king wearing the single crown of Lower Egypt. He's approached by his royal attendant, who prepares the daily ritual of laving of the limbs. The kings of Upper and Lower Egypt had their own separate gods and crowns. The southern king was guarded by the vulture goddess Nekhmet and wore a tall white crown. In Lower Egypt, the king wore a flat red crown with a serpentine curliture and was protected by the cobra goddess Wadjet. As the living god, the pharaoh was the divine catalyst and center of the Egyptian life circuit. At the dawn of each new day, the pharaoh would enter the house of the morning for his ritual bath. Reenacting the sun god bathing is the primordial ocean. The ritual served to restore the vital force to the kingdom. His power would be further enhanced with the anointing of sacred crocodile oil, the crocodile deity giving its life to empower the earthly god. The pharaoh would then be robed and accompany the priests of Horus to the temple to officially begin the Egyptian day with an opening prayer. Life in Egypt could not recommence until sunrise, unless the god king initiated the day with this ceremony. So no ceremony, no start of the day, and this is the anointing of the pharaoh. Now I ended this video lecture with the Mayan 2012 End Times calendar and the necklace or pendant. It's going to be a challenge to my British English to pronounce some of the Mayan names, but the famous Mayan calendar of myth and legend, they even make movies about it. Certainly no ordinary calendar. It's actually a long count calendar which measures the great cycle of 26,800 years. 26,800 and it takes our solar system to orbit around the galaxy's center. The Aztecs knew it, and now here's the challenge, knew it as Coaxicali, the Eagle's Bowl, a massive stone slab about 4 meters or 12 feet in diameter and weighing 25 tons. It is reputed to have taken a full Aztec century to carve and was completed in 1479 during the reign of the 6th Aztec king. And now another challenge. When the city of Tenochtitlan fell in 1521, the Spanish destroyed the pagan temple and wasted no time building a church over the ruins. The calendar was lost in the rubble and missing for 250 years. It was discovered intact beneath the main square of Mexico City during repairs on the cathedral in the late 18th century. Now Mexico's most famous artifact is on permanent display in the National Museum of Anthropology in Mexico City. So what's so special about 2012, you may ask, particularly as we're now in the year 2017? Well, also all Mesoamericans believe in the periodic destruction and recreation of the world. According to ancient Mayan tradition, the world is subject to a cataclysmic change caused by the sun every 6,000 to 12,000 years, sometimes by flood, sometimes by fire. In the center of the calendar, the solar disk assumes a fearsome face and records the date 4 Olin on which the present world cycle comes to an end. Around the sun, 4 squares, the Nahu Olin, or 4 great cycles, represent the previous world eras or suns. Each period is identified by the phenomenon that brought it to an end: water, wind, earthquake, or fire. According to the calendar, the end of the present world cycle on our calendar is the year 2012. You may rest assured that that is now well past. The world would not come to an end just yet. Well, I trust you have enjoyed this foray into early forms of writing, communication. I find them absolutely fascinating. But do read the introduction to Ferrero and also chapter 1, where it talks more about these early forms of writing. And as I say, in my book on Ferrero, it's page 11. It starts with cuneiform, and also look up cuneiform in the index and follow that through. So this is your professor signing off, and do read that in the chapters in Ferrero.